winning is a big part of it. Now, there are different stages to winning, or different stages to developing as a tennis player. You know, if I take the old system they used to use at voluntaries, there was like, they said there's a stage. The first stage is learning to hit. Then they would go on to say the next stage is learning to train. And I remember with one of our players that when she started training with us, that, oh my gosh, she couldn't get through an hour and a half because her training sessions just looked very different. She really well knew how to hit, but didn't know how to train. Then that next stage is learning to compete. So competing is such a big part. And then the last stage, when you become a top player, hopefully when you do get there, is learning to win. But what happens is that we all want to win, and we don't go through the stages. But let's fast forward now and say, okay, you got to go on court, and you got 2 matches that you're playing. You got 2 things to take care of. Those things that you got to take care of are both your systems, your processes, the development of your game, but also winning. And you know, a lot of players learn how to hit, they learn how to train, but they get stuck when it comes to competing and winning. Why is that? Because over and above hitting the ball, over and above how you move, there are some other things to take care of. And those things are predominantly software. This is where I feel like a lot of top players get stuck, because they never took time to take care of the software. They don't take care of their mindsets. So what would be a formula for winning? And I borrowed this a little bit from a discussion that I listened to over this weekend. But this discussion wasn't really about tennis or competition. It was more so about life, winning in life. Now that actually really applies very well to tennis and competition. So what is the formula for victory? What is the formula for winning? So number 1 is resilience. And we discussed it last week. We discussed practical ways to become more resilient. And look, the good news is that you're all capable of being very resilient, because you have that capacity. And first and foremost, you've got to understand you have that capacity. But it's not going to come easy. Resilience comes when things are difficult. When you got knocked down, but you get up. And it's that simple saying, you get knocked down 9 times, you get up 10 times. That is resilience. Resilience doesn't happen when you're wrapped up in cotton wool, when you're protected the whole time. It doesn't happen when things are easy. It happens when you fail. So the good news is that in tennis, you're going to fail a lot. And when you fail in tennis, how you deal with that failure is either going to make you more resilient or less resilient. So the number 1 element of winning / victory is resilience. I want to jump over to the next one. The next one is discipline. Look, you can be as resilient as you want, but if you're not disciplined out there, the wheels will come off. And what do I mean with discipline? I'm going to phrase it to you very simply. It's doing what you need to do versus what you want to feel like not doing. So in the tennis court, look, we all want to hit winners, and we switch on the television and we see those incredible winners happening out there. But what you don't see is the discipline leading up to it. Now, if I could take you out of your body and I can immediately put you into like a Sinner or a Djokovic, and I can get you to experience what they do, you'll experience a lot of discipline. Look, a lot of people ask me about discipline. Discipline creates freedom. Nobody, I guarantee you, nobody gets to the top without discipline. Discipline with what? Discipline with your systems. discipline with your shot selection, with movement, how you set your feet, with how you play margin, not hitting that ball bigger. Look, you get into a tough match and all of a sudden you think, no, I'm just going to hit the ball bigger. I'm going to hit my way out of this. That is not discipline. Discipline, now I'm going to give you the key to discipline, is predominantly showing up every day, working hard, doing the right thing. You know, we can really dig into discipline and identify what all the elements are and what it means for you as a tennis player. But now I want to say that that's a topic that we've discussed already before. So go back to that conversation. Here's the kicker. Where does your discipline come from? If your discipline comes from mom or dad, coach, or the environment, I see this so many times. You play a weak UTR or a low player and you drop your level. Or you play against that top guy and all of a sudden the intensity is up, the discipline is there. If your environment, your external, determines your discipline, we've got a problem. That word needs to become self-discipline. And this is where I want to remind you your why. Why are you doing this? All right, let's look at the next element. So we've already got two elements. We've got resilience, we have discipline, and this is now a big one. Belief. You go like, but coach, how do I believe in myself if I keep dumping my forehand or my serve in the net? Yeah, that's true. Not easy, but let's start with mindset. Belief and mindset starts here and here. All the top players don't question themselves. They might say, hey, what was up with my process? What was up with my formula, my tactics, or my margin, my execution? But they never ever don't back themselves. They believe in themselves. So start believing in yourself. And how do I grow in belief? There are different ways to grow in belief. But it starts with hard work. Consistent hard work. And therefore that saying, excellence lies in consistency of hard work and quality work. So meaning my quality of work through discipline, but my hard work showing up, doing it. So by doing that, I gain momentum. When I win 2 points in a row, I squeeze that third point in a row. I figure out how to get the third point, the fourth point in a row. But I never give it away, because that momentum will start making me believe that I'm capable of anything. Listen to the last sentence. I am capable of anything. This is what I want you to understand. That you have the capacity to be just as good as those guys at the top. Don't come to me with talent. Don't come to me like what ifs. And remember that 8, that 7, that 6-year-old self that believed that you're going to be a top player. Where is that person? Can I tell you what happened? Along the way, you failed a little bit. And by the way, tennis is a sport where you fail more than any other sport in life. And then when you failed, what did you do? Did you make your own value more or less? And at some point, if you keep failing with the same thing, you start thinking that, hey, this is too difficult. Absolute rubbish. That is not too difficult. You got to go and change your formula. You got to go and change your approach. Every and anything is possible. Whether you say you can or you say you can't, you are right. So start saying, I can do this. Start speaking positive. So belief comes from that inner voice. And it's always good to have a team around you that believes in you. Now look, another way to lose belief in yourself is if you're constantly fixing things. Go ahead and build some weapons. Focus on those things that you need in your project. Instead of saying, hey, I want to fix my serve, go with the mentality as coach. help me, I want to develop a weapon on my serve, weapon on my forehand, whatever shot you pick to do. And it's important that in this project of yours, you focus more on what elements of greatness you want to install. Look, it's like a computer. I don't put good programs on there. That computer is not really worth much. It's not capable of doing many things. So this discussion over the weekend, they gave an example of a study that scientists did with rats at Johns Hopkins. So what the scientists did, and it is a bit gruesome, but hang with me on this. They took rats and they put them in a bucket of water, and they wanted to see how long these rats can survive. How long will they keep swimming, keep fighting, till they give up? And this is the gruesome part, sorry, I apologize. Around 13 to 15 minutes, all the rats in the bucket gave up. Pretty sad, right? Okay, now, they did the test again. Put another, batch B, next bunch of rats, right? Your number is up. They put them in the water again, but just before 13 minutes, they took them out and they gave them food. They gave them water. And then they let them rest a little bit. They put him back in the bucket to do the test again. So here the scientists, look, scientists not very often are believers because they want to see black and white. And guess what happened? All of a sudden these rats are now swimming up to 60 hours without giving up. How is that possible? Because they believe that even when they get tired, somewhere somebody is going to take them out, save them, feed them, let them rest. That's the power of belief. So if you're sitting right here and you're not believing in yourself, start working on that. And remember, there are ways to believe in yourself more. One of the fastest ways to stop believing in yourself is to attach a value to, or your self-value to winning and losing a point. Every time you win a point, you believe you're better. Every time you lose a point, you think you're less. That's your formula that is changing. It's got nothing to do with your capacity, what you're capable of. So keep believing in yourself and make the little adjustments. Now I'm going to tell you something, and this is where you stop believing that you're going to be that top 10 player in the world. Because somewhere you kept making the same error. And the same mistake kept coming at you. And look, this is how life in tennis works. The more that same obstacle comes to you and it defeats you, in your mind you start thinking, oh, hey, hold on, I don't think I can overcome this. But every time I don't solve a problem or an obstacle, the problem comes back at me bigger and bigger. It seems bigger and bigger. So here's a little advice. When there's an obstacle in your way, don't avoid it. Don't procrastinate. Don't just think it's going to go better. Face it. Figure it out. I've seen so many top tennis players without talent, but they had these three things in place, guys. And this is why they won. They had resilience, they had discipline, and they had self-belief. And remember, self-belief creates mental toughness. Now, as the speech went this weekend, the speaker basically said to us, he said, winning, victory, if you look at these three elements, resilience, discipline, self-belief, and now I win a little bit, all of a sudden my discipline gets better because, hey, I work hard. And now as my discipline gets a little bit better, I start believing in myself a little bit better. And as I believe in myself a little bit more, right, now all of a sudden I'm becoming a little bit more resilient the next time something tough comes my way. And it starts feeding each other. But guys, here's where a lot of young players miss out. They think by being resilient, disciplined, believing in themselves, that it's going to happen immediately, that it's going to happen overnight. No. It takes time. Rome was not built in a day. So it takes time to become great. There's no instant gratification, and that is the times that you're growing up in. And because you don't succeed quick enough, you don't put the volume and the quality in, you get distracted. You stop hanging on to your dreams, your goals. And when things get tough, you got to ask yourself, how does resilience act? How does discipline act? How does self-belief act? And am I willing to lower my goals? Am I willing to let go of my dreams? The answer is always no. No, so push through. Be resilient. Play with discipline. Keep believing in yourself. Now those are a little bit software elements, ingredients for victory. And remember, the more you do it, the more it fuels you. And it becomes like it becomes like a tipping point. At some point, I am so full of confidence, discipline, self-belief, that it starts feeding itself. You know, it's like interest. When I put money in the bank, I get interest on that $100 that I put in the bank. But now, next month, I get interest on the $100 plus that little bit of interest. So I get interest on the interest. And that's how it works. Now, the good news is that these three simple elements of software, mindset, attitude, can help you. The element that we haven't discussed is the hardware. Your biomechanics, your strokes, your physicality. No, we can't get away from that. But guys, I'm going to tell you, if I have all the strokes in the world, which at the top they all have it, I have all the physicality, fitness, I have my biomechanics right, but I don't have the software in place, I do not succeed. So winning doesn't happen. So for us as tennis players, if we have it the other way around, self-belief, discipline, resilience, I will win up to a high level. I might have platforms if I don't have the hardware in place. So for you, as a tennis player, the four elements are simple. If you want to win, resilience, self-discipline. Yes, the hardware, self-belief. So I suggest you figure out how to get better at those things. And going further in the week, we'll actually have a discussion in each of these elements to assist you a little bit. But guys, start there if you want to start winning. All right.